In the shadowed heart of medieval Europe, where the mist clings to the earth like a lover's desperate embrace, there lies a village forgotten by time. Its name, if it ever had one, has crumbled into the dust of centuries. But the locals of the Carpathian foothills still whisper of it in dread. The village of the widowed men. Here, in the year 1347, as the Black Death crept like a thief across the land, a tale unfolded so dark, so wretched that it stained the very soul of the earth. Picture a place where the sun seemed reluctant to rise, where the air was thick with the scent of pine and sorrow, and where every house stood silent, its windows like hollow eyes staring into oblivion. This was no ordinary village, for it bore a curse that devoured brides on their wedding night, leaving only men to mourn in its wake. The story begins with a woman named Ilara, a weaver's daughter with hair like spun moonlight and eyes that held the weight of unspoken dreams. She was betrothed to Lucas, a blacksmith whose hands were calloused but whose heart burned with a quiet, unshakable love. Their wedding was to be a beacon of hope in a village already trembling under the shadow of plague and superstition. The villagers gathered under a blood-red sunset, their faces etched with a strange unease, as if the very wind carried a warning. Ilara, draped in a gown of coarse linen, adorned with wild flowers, stepped into the church, her heart a fragile bird fluttering against the cage of her ribs. The priest, an old man with eyes like clouded mirrors, muttered prayers that seemed to falter in the air. As the vows were spoken, a chill descended, and the candles flickered as though brushed by unseen hands. That night, in the small cottage Lucas had built with his own hands, Ilara vanished. No scream, no struggle, no trace only, her wedding veil torn and stained with what looked like ash left on the floor. Lucas woke to a silence so profound it felt like the world had stopped breathing. He tore through the village, his cries swallowed by the fog, but Ilara was gone. The villagers, tight-lipped and pale, offered no answers, only averted eyes and hurried prayers. Lucas was not the first to lose his bride, nor would he be the last. For generations, the men of this village had married, loved, and lost, their wives vanishing into the night as if claimed by some insatiable darkness. The curse, they said, was born in the time of their forefathers, when the village made a pact with something ancient, something that lurked in the forest beyond the fields. But what was this pact, and why did it demand the lives of the innocent? Lucas, consumed by grief and rage, vowed to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing the shadows that had claimed his love. Lucas's search for Ilara led him to the edge of the village, where the forest stood like a wall of secrets, its trees gnarled and twisted as if sculpted by anguish. The villagers warned him to stay away, their voices trembling with a fear that seemed older than their years. They spoke of the hollow, a clearing deep within the woods where no bird sang and no light dared linger. It was here, they whispered, that the curse had been born. Lucas, driven by a love that refused to die, ignored their pleas and ventured into the forest, his torch casting feeble light against the encroaching dark. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of decay and something sweeter like rotting flowers. As he pushed deeper, he found signs of the lost, a ribbon caught in a thorn, a slipper half buried in the mud, a locket engraved with a name he did not know. Each relic was a dagger to his heart, proof that Ilara was not the first to be taken. At last he reached the hollow, a place so still it seemed the world held its breath. In its center stood a stone altar, weathered and stained with marks that might have been blood or time. Carved into its surface were words in a tongue no villager could read. But Lucas felt their weight, as if they whispered of betrayal and sacrifice. He knelt, his fingers tracing the carvings, when a sound broke the silence low. Mournful hum, like a dirge sung by unseen mourners. He turned to find a figure cloaked in shadow, its form neither man nor woman, but something older, something that seemed to bleed into the darkness itself. "You seek the truth," it said, its voice a rustle of dead leaves, "but truth comes at a cost." Lucas, his heart pounding, demanded answers. The figure spoke of a pact made centuries ago, when the village faced ruin. To save themselves from famine, the elders had turned to a being they called the Keeper of the Hollow, offering a tribute of life to ensure their survival. But the Keeper was no benevolent god. It was a force of hunger, of endless want, and it demanded the village's brides as payment. their lives to feed its eternal youth. The men, desperate and weak, had agreed, condemning their daughters and wives to a fate worse than death. Lucas staggered back, his mind reeling. His gentle Alara was now part of this monstrous bargain. But the figure offered him a choice. He could join the pact, become its guardian, and spare future brides. Or he could defy it and risk the village's destruction. Torn between love and duty, Lucas felt the weight of his decision pressing down like a storm. Lucas returned to the village under a moonless sky, his soul fractured by what he had learned. The figure's words echoed in his mind. Join the pact or destroy it. But destruction meant risking the wrath of the Keeper, a force that had claimed countless lives. He sought out the priest, the only man who might know more, but found him in the church, trembling before the altar, his prayers a desperate plea for forgiveness. The old man confessed that the village had lived in fear of the Keeper for centuries, each generation passing down the burden of silence. The brides, he said, were not dead but taken, their essence consumed to sustain the Keeper's power. Lucas, his voice breaking, asked why no one had fought back. The priest's eyes filled with tears as he spoke of those who had tried. Men who had ventured into the hollow and never returned, their names erased from memory. Lucas realized the village was complicit, its men bound by guilt and fear, their silence a cage as real as any iron. He thought of Alara, her laughter, her warmth, and the life they had dreamed of together. He could not accept her loss, nor could he condemn others to the same fate. In the dead of night, he gathered the village men, his voice steady despite the storm within. He told them of the hollow, the altar, and the Keeper's demand. Some wept, others cursed, but all felt the weight of their shared sin. Lucas proposed a plan. They would return to the hollow together, confront the Keeper, and break the curse, no matter the cost. The men, stirred by his resolve, agreed, though fear clung to them like damp cloth. At dawn, they marched into the forest, armed with little more than torches and desperation. The hollow awaited, its silence louder than ever, the altar gleaming under a sickly light. As they formed a circle around it, the air grew cold, and the hum returned, now a chorus of anguished voices. The Keeper appeared, its form shifting between beauty and horror, its eyes burning with a hunger that could swallow worlds. It mocked their defiance, promising ruin if they broke the pact. But Lucas, standing at the altar, raised his voice, not in prayer, but in challenge, vowing to end the curse or die trying. The Keeper's laughter filled the hollow, a sound like breaking glass, sharp and cruel. It offered Lucas one final chance to join it, to become its vessel and spare the village. But Lucas saw Alara's face in his mind, her eyes pleading for him to fight. He refused, and the men, emboldened by his courage, raised their torches high. The Keeper's form twisted, its beauty melting into something grotesque, a writhing mass of shadow and bone. The ground trembled, and the altar cracked, spilling a light that burned the eyes. The men fought, not with weapons, but with will, chanting the names of the lost brides Alara, Alina, Mara, and countless others. The Keeper howled, its power faltering as the names filled the air, each one a wound to its ancient heart. Lucas, at the center, drove a torch into the altar, and the light exploded, consuming the hollow in a blaze of white fire. When the light faded, the altar was dust, the Keeper gone, and the forest silent once more. But the cost was heavy. Half the men lay dead, their bodies unmarked, but their eyes empty, as if their souls had been claimed. Lucas survived, but his heart was broken, for Alara did not return. The village, now free of the curse, was a shadow of itself, its men haunted by the price of their freedom. Years later, travelers spoke of a lone figure wandering the Carpathian foothills, a man with calloused hands and eyes that held a storm. They said he told stories of a village where brides were lost, of a curse that demanded life, and of a love that defied death itself. Some called him mad, others a hero, but all who heard his tale felt a chill as if the Keeper's shadow lingered still. The village of the widowed men faded into legend. Its name lost, but its story etched into the earth, a warning that some pacts, once made, can never be undone. And so the forest stands, silent and waiting, for those brave or foolish enough to seek its secrets.